around about £30,000 a month. I mean, sometimes more, sometimes less, depending on what happened. I mean, sometimes you make 10, 15 grand in a day in a couple of hours just doing, 2 or 3 keys of coke. And literally, the car is so full of drugs. The boot's full, the back seat is full, the footwells are full, the front seat's full, and the footwell in the front with cannabis, hash, and weed. There's a key of coke in the car. There's thousands of pills, amphetamine. I mean, just fucking boxes and boxes of stuff. And I see in the back seat there's somebody there with his shotgun up there. I've said, "What? Are you going to shoot me in front of all these people?" And the restaurant's went absolutely dead silent. So I got smuggled out of Britain by the Turkish mafia. Sure enough, the door comes through. I think they got caught in there with like 3 or 4 keys of coke. The press, precursor chemicals, the cutting agent, the whole fucking lot.
Hi guys, and welcome back to KRN TV, where we bring you the most exciting interviews from around the world. Today, delighted to be in Guildford with Pieter Tritton. Pieter, how are we doing?
Not bad. Thanks for having me on, Christy.
Thank you very much for coming down, and thank you very much for giving me the opportunity.
Okay.
So, for people who don't know, I haven't seen Pieter before. He got involved in the drug trade at a very early age through some stepbrothers, and got involved in because it's kind of through them. Obviously, we'll get in more details. Got involved in it. Got involved in the selling of it, ended up going to jail in this country, ended up coming out, unfortunately didn't change his ways and ended up continuing the criminal path, and then down the line ended up getting involved in the smuggling trade and bringing cocaine back from South America. Down the line he ended up getting caught and imprisoned in Ecuador, and thank God obviously he managed to make it through it, fairly unscathed. He's sitting here fairly healthy today and happy today, we hope. And so let's get into the story. It's obviously an unbelievable story you've got, Pieter. It's it seems more unreal than any sort of film you see, and sometimes real life is like
that. Definitely, totally agree.
So, if possible, I'd like to go back to the sort of start of your journey and see what obviously sculpted you into the person you are today. So whether it's your childhood, your parents, siblings, and so talk to me about whereabouts you were brought up, a little bit about your schooling and family.
Okay. Yeah, so I was born in Stroud in Gloucestershire. In 1976, and raised in a small village called Avening, which is on the edge of the Cotswolds. I've got a sister who's 4 years younger than me. So during my time growing up in Avening, my parents were sort of a little bit hippie-ish. My dad was a builder, but used to smoke pot, and I think I sort of became quite accustomed to that being around me. And in fact, my earliest encounter with cannabis, like me personally, ingesting it, was at a party that my parents were at, and I accidentally got fed cannabis cake, chocolate cannabis cake at the age of 4, and distinctly remember the day to now. Just remember it all being a little bit weird and off centre. But so growing up there was quite wild parties around me. Didn't really know what it was all about, obviously at a young age, but as I started getting older I started becoming inquisitive and seeing lots of lumps of hash around and what's this all about, and see books on the bookshelf that are all about drugs and stuff, started reading them, and I suppose seeing these parties going on and seeing adults having fun, you sort of, as a child, you must equate that with something that maybe you want to do yourself, I guess. So, I think the first time I ever actually smoked it myself was weed, that is. It was around the age of 10 or 11.
So how did that come about? Was that through friends, or was it from older people?
Trying to recall. I think I'd been at a party actually. Oh no, I must have been a bit older than that. I must have been about 12 or 13, because my parents were divorced when I was 10, and my dad met up with another woman who had a son and a daughter, who were both quite a bit older than me. And I remember one of the parties that her son had, me going down the next morning and finding like a lump of squidgy black red seal.
Yeah.
And I think that was my first experience of it, smoking it.
And so around this sort of time at school, sort of 12, 13 years old, like, how were you getting on at school? Were you troublesome
No.
boy,
no.
or were you doing well in your studies?
No, I was quite academically gifted. I mean, as far as GCSEs went, I gained 12 GCSEs, all A's and B's. I was captain of the cricket team for the school, my year. Played all the sports, rugby, football, a whole lot. Cross-country runner for the school and the county as well. And then the illegal rave started up.
Yeah.
And on my mum's side, this was her new partner also had 2 sons, both of whom were at school with me. One was a year older and the other was like maybe 5 or 6 years older. So I'll just say hello to Jamie Rainbow if he's listening. And it was Jamie who was the DJ at a lot of the illegal raves that were going on at the time around Stroud, around the southwest. And obviously they were hooked up with the people who were organising them as well. So I started tagging along and realised that I could start selling drugs at these parties. Probably at a later age of about 14 or 15, sort of started buying a few. I think the first pills I bought were these white nip or something, or something like that. And took to Castle Morton at the age of... Is that the first ones? Yeah, probably around then. Took them to Castle Morton anyway, the big free party at Castle Morton, and started selling them there. And realised that it was an easy way to offset the cost of partying and generate some extra income as well.
And so you had started partaking in ecstasy yourself, actually taking it and...
Yeah. Not so much, because I kind of like to remain in control a bit more. But I mean, I did, yeah. Ecstasy, amphetamine, and LSD as well.
So that must have been quite a lot to take on for sort of a young boy going into these raves and stuff. Must be quite intoxicating and addictive, obviously, there.
Well, there was quite a group of us in my year group that were going along, and obviously because the guys in the year group above us were going as well, and then my stepbrothers, it kind of meant that we all ended up becoming friends. Like normally when you're at school, it'd be your year group and you stick in your year group, don't you? But then, because we were all going to the same parties at the weekends, we all got to know each other, and it all became sort of friends together, and then started organising their own parties as well, amongst ourselves.
And so at this time, what were your aspirations for the future, sort of 14, 15, 16 years old? What were you planning on doing later on in life? What sort of profession were you?
Yeah, I mentioned my father was a builder, so I kind of wanted to be an architect, or a doctor, because I always wanted to help people. But obviously found out that both of those were 6-year, 4-year degrees and then 2 years doing the masters or whatever it is. And I just didn't have the financial backing to see me through that long. So I'd always been into archaeology, and decided to try and study that at university because it's always been a passion of mine.
What about you? Obviously went to college first, didn't you? In between, and didn't you have your sort of first serious brush with the law, or not? At college, and can we talk about that? How that came around?
Yeah, so finished school at Tetbury, Sir William Romney's, got my GCSEs, like I said, and then decided to move to a sixth form college in Cirencester, and studied biology, geography, and English, and started dealing. Well, I just carried on dealing, but I started dealing there as well, and got grassed up by one of the locals, and the police turned up at my parents' door, one morning as I was getting ready to leave college, and I had like a couple of ounces of hash on me, cut up into eighths and quarters. So as I'm leaving, they've turned up at the door, plain clothes, CID, drug squad, find the pot, arrest me at the house, take me in. So I ended up getting expelled from the sixth form college. Thankfully, though, they allowed me to sit my exams.
Yeah, very lucky.
So I managed to study at home and gate my A-levels as well.
Okay, so who were you living with that time? Your mum?
My dad.
You're living with your dad at that time, and what was your dad and obviously your mum's reaction to obviously the police getting thrown out of college? You've been busted for dealing and stuff. Was there?
They weren't very happy. I mean, I suppose to some extent they might have seen it coming. I'm sure my dad had an inkling that I was up to no good because there were people turning up at the house and I'd be ducking in and out, taking deals in and out, all the usual signs. But yeah, they weren't very happy. I mean, my dad was in France on holiday at the time with his new partner, so I had to call him in France and say, "Oh God, the police have been to the house, raided the house, searched the house, been arrested." So yeah, he wasn't very happy.
Did you have to get adults come and get you released? So what age was this?
I was 17.
So did your mum have to come and get you released, or did they just release you?
I can't remember. No, I think I just got released. Ended up getting, I think it was either 6 or 12 months probation.
So that was in magistrates' court, was
Magistrates court, yeah.
And so, unfortunately, that wasn't enough to put you off.
Well, it did actually, yeah.
So you had a few month or a few year period.
Yeah, I mean that did, it did put me off because I saw it upset my family a lot, and it sort of stopped me in my tracks quite a bit. I thought, well, I don't want to jeopardise my future any more than I already have. I'll knuckle down and get off to university, get a degree under my belt, and try and do something sensible.
So which you did. You obviously got through your A-levels, managed to get into Cardiff University. Congratulations for that. And then so you moved to Cardiff. And did you have any family in Cardiff or any links in Cardiff? What made you go there as such?
The reason
it's a decent uni.
Yeah, the reason I went to Cardiff was mainly because it was close to home.
Yeah.
I mean, also the department was good for archaeology.
Nice city as well.
Yeah. I was offered places at Liverpool, Bradford and Southampton. Nearly went to Liverpool, but yeah, I think Cardiff went out because it was just a bit close to home.
Talk to me about Cardiff then, how you found it. So you were there for 4 years, were you?
No, it would have been 3 years.
Yes.
It was archaeology, but yeah, so we moved down to Cardiff, started studying, quickly realised that there was money to be made selling drugs. Student scene's massive, as you know.
It's huge. A lot of people, obviously, I've seen my friends who went to uni, there's a lot of people who are taking drugs for the first time. They've got student loans. There's so much money to be made there for their wrong, dangerous sort of mind.
So, obviously having that sort of business frame of mind and trying to survive on a student loan, I was just like, this is this is an opportunity that could quite easily make money and probably get away with it. So start dealing, and it quickly escalates from just dealing to a few students to then meeting the local dealers from Cardiff, start dealing to them. They then introduced me to the main dealers from, the Valleys, Swansea, Bridgend, Newport. And before I know it, I'm going up to London and coming back with, literally holdalls full of drugs.
So how did you get this London contacts? It must be a good contact then if you're able to you're getting it at a good price and able to beat everyone's prices around.
Yeah, so, I mean, that's come about because of having contacts in my local area. I started going back there first. And because I started asking for quite large amounts, my local dealer said, well, we'll introduce you to our guy.
Climbed the tree.
Yeah, exactly. Our connection, who was up in Oxford. And then he said, well, the guy in Oxford then said, well, come with me to London. So, then meet his people up in London, up in Highgate and, Islington area. Start sort of collecting through him and directly from them, and it all just became, the pressure of it all just became a bit too much. And I'd also
Yes, sorry to interrupt. So who was it that in London you were getting it from? I don't want you to say specifically. Was it sort of individual? Was it some foreigners in there? Was it one of the big families?
It was one of the families.
One of the prominent families.
Yeah. And some pretty heavy firms out there.
And
pretty
so
serious people.
Obviously, before you talk about the pressure, how did you find it? Was it dealing with these people that was creating the pressure for you?
No, that was fine. Yeah.
You found the people.
Yeah, I mean,
they were very businesslike, and
that wasn't a problem. It was, I think the pressure came because I started giving out credit, which is always a big no-no. And then I started, I'm chasing my tail, trying to recover debts, and trying to make extra money to cover this and cover that, and also in my time at sixth form college, and also prior to that, I'd had quite a lot of people die around me, including a girlfriend in a car accident. A friend died when I was 14 from a brain hemorrhage, best friend. And like a whole catalogue of people had died. So that was all sort of rolling around in my head as well.
Still in there, you had a lot of trauma and PTSD from those sort of things.
That hadn't been addressed at all. And yeah, I think it all came to a head during my second year at university, and I just, couldn't keep. I was just having to, study the dealing of the drugs, racing up and down to London, and all the rest of it going on.
Worrying about money, collecting this, collecting that, people owing.
Yeah. So unfortunately, dropped out of uni, which I regret.
Yeah.
And I would advise to anyone who's thinking about doing that, don't see through the degree if you are there studying, because it's only 3 years, and that's a lifetime of learning behind you that you can benefit from. So anyway, I dropped out of university, moved to Bristol where my girlfriend was studying at the time. Moved to St George's, rent a house there. Quickly meet some of the local dealers in Bristol. In fact, no, I'd already met some of the local dealers.
So you hadn't sort of dropped out of uni in order to give yourself a break from the dealing or anything like this. Unfortunately, you did it sort of the wrong way around. It sounds like rather than keeping hold of the uni stuff, you thought, let's drop the uni stuff, and then you threw yourself into the underworld.
Wholeheartedly, yeah. So, because I mean, obviously the illegal rave scene is still going on. I'm still going to those as well, down in Wales. I've met all the media set down in Cardiff. Quite big musicians, well, really famous musicians at the time. All the film, some of who are now quite big names.
Yes. I noticed you mentioned Howard Marks. You didn't go into it at all. Did you meet Howard Marks at all during your time in Cardiff? He's a hero of mine.
I met him a couple of times. And I also met some, oddly enough, some of the people that I was dealing with in London had dealt with Howard previously.
Yeah.
So it was all sort of interconnected and mishmashed. And also some of the people I was at university with, fathers knew him from Kenfig Hill.
Yep.
So it was really weird connections going on.
And how were your dealings with Howard then? How did you find
it? I mean, there was no drug dealing with him.
No, but just in terms of your interactions with him, was he a nice guy? Was he what he seems
laid back? Yeah, really just laid back.
Standard, proper hippie, lovely guy, relaxed.
Yeah. So, I mentioned a few names. So met Super Furries, carers from Catatonia, all that sort of group of people. They were all hanging around in the Riverside Cafe down in Riverside.
It must have been fun times for you though, being interactive with those sort of circles.
Yeah. And also
up
in near Oxford, near Stone on the World, where my main guy was, we were also meeting people up there like John Entwistle from The Who. So you know what it's like, cocaine. There's a lot of rock and roll. A lot of people like to do cocaine in that sort of scene, and you end up meeting them. So that was all quite fun and enjoyable.
And so you're based in Bristol at these times, here,
yeah.
Living with girlfriends.
In Bristol, rented the house, got my girlfriend with me. And then meet some pretty big players in Bristol. Started supplying them as well. And then in turn they introduced me to some other people up in London and Bedford, and it's just escalated hugely. And I at that point, living in Bristol, because you know where Bristol is, I mean, you've got access to South Wales, you've got the South West, you've got the Midlands and London, so I was in the centre, like a hub, the hub of a wheel. And I remember sitting down with a friend and saying, I haven't got anyone in Scotland. Wouldn't mind branching out. Do you know anyone? And we managed to get some contacts up in Scotland, up in Edinburgh and other places, and started supplying very large amounts of drugs up to Scotland as well.
So you're very ambitious in the way you were doing this stuff, weren't you?
Yeah.
And so you must have been making some serious money at this sort of stage here. You had sort of the Bristol thing going on, you had the Cardiff thing, Oxford thing, and now you'd branched out into Scotland. You must have been serious money coming in at this point.
Yeah, making... I've mentioned it on other podcasts, but probably around about £30,000 a month. Sometimes more, sometimes less, depending on what happened. Sometimes you make 10, 15 grand in a day in a couple of hours just doing, 2 or 3 keys of coke to someone. So yeah, there was a lot of money floating around.
So at this point here, what were you, about 20 years old? 21 years old.
22.
And so, what was your thinking at this time here? Were you literally just in the drugs and that was your focus? Was there any aspirations now? Would you feel, right, I'm going to go back to uni, save a bit of money? What was going on with you at that time?
Yeah, I was, I'd started taking cocaine at the time, so, partying. Not massively, but doing enough to be noticeable. But I was hoping really to make enough money. I think like a lot of us who get into dealing, you want to make enough money, bread money or seed money, to then start some sort of legal business. And I've always had loads of different business ideas, always coming up with ideas, ventures that we could do, or this, that and the other. So I had a great long list of ideas that I wanted to possibly work on.
Unfortunately, none of them come into fruition when you're so caught up in the other stuff.
Yeah, that was the problem. You're so wrapped up in running around, doing some weeks 2,000 miles in a week in the car, up and down to Scotland, up and down to London, back and forth, just crazy miles in the car, just 24/7.
So were you actually driving the drugs around at them time there?
As well, yeah. It was. Because
so you're living life on a tightrope.
As well, I was just totally hooked on the adrenaline. I think just flat out. Just to illustrate the point. On one of my trips up to Scotland, I'd rented a Vauxhall Vectra, and I'm driving up to Scotland on my own, and literally the car is so full of drugs. The boot's full, the back seat is full, the footwells are full, the front seat's full, and the footwell in the front with cannabis, hash, and weed. There's a key of coke in the car. There's thousands of pills, amphetamine. Just fucking boxes and boxes of stuff.
Proper kamikaze driving.
The fuel gauge on the car, it was a diesel, I'll never forget it. Fuel gauge is faulty. So I'm flying up the M72, A72, whatever. And you have to branch off for Edinburgh. And about a mile short of the town of Edinburgh, the car starts fluttering and suddenly she cuts and has run out of fuel. So I coast to a halt on the hard shoulder, and I'm thinking, fucking hell, I've got to run to the services, which are not, just off the junction out of the road. I'm thinking, if I get back and there's a police car parked up here, I'm not going anywhere near this car. So I've run all the way to the garage, bought a can, got the diesel, walked back, got up into a field, up above the motorway so I could see what's going on. Walking along, came around the bend, and luckily the car was still there and there were no police. Filled the put the diesel in, got that's enough to get me to the service station. Got to the service station, filled up, and made it to Edinburgh. But there were a couple of runs like that. I remember snapping the key in the ignition one time, coming back from Edinburgh, like 200 grand in the car. The fucking key snapped in the ignition, in the barrel, on the same road actually. Stopped to walk the dog. Shouldn't have done. Bloody dog.
So did you never think about obviously using drivers at these times after these couple of brushs where it's obviously a lot of stress? You just thought, no, better just do it myself.
Yeah, because of the amount of money involved. I just didn't want to take the risk of losing it. I was already in debt, and
so
trying to pay off debts.
Yeah, so you were taking the drugs on credit then off these
London families? Getting like £250,000 worth of stuff, £300,000 worth of kit at a time, if not more.
Crazy risks when you obviously think back, looking at that, out of your head at those times, anything can go wrong, and just.
Luckily, Yeah, I mean, I was pretty lucky.
Mm.
I mean, I'll give you another story. Down in Bristol, ended up seeing that this is towards the end of the 90s, when I was living there, split up with my girlfriend at the time. Ended up seeing this girl from Bristol who was going out with a yardie, and she'd just split up with him, had a kid with him, and he was a bit of a nutter. He'd been shot once already by someone with a shotgun, lost top of his arm, the muscle there. So quite a dangerous guy. And so I ended up with his girlfriend, basically. And I've forgotten the point of the story. Oh yeah, one of his mates sets me up, takes a key of coke through a third party. So they robbed a key of coke off me, and another key of coke goes missing at the same time through somebody else. So I'm now 2 keys of coke down. Luckily for me, I had the money to cover one, but not the other. So end up trying to find these guys, chasing them through Bristol. There's a couple of car chases, and I find out where their family are up in Yate. All the rest of it, all starts getting quite heavy, and we decide to call a meeting to try and sort it out. Brown's at the top of Park Street in Bristol, just off the triangle there, near Clifton. So I turn up for the meeting at this restaurant, and I knew not to just wait, because they said, "Oh, wait on the steps out the front." I thought, "Fuck that! I'm not waiting there," because So I park across the road in the Range Rover that I had at the time, and I'm watching the rear view mirror, and I see this car go around there's a one-way system there, goes around 2 or 3 times, and I see in the back seat there's somebody there with a shotgun, and they intended to shoot me on the steps.
Mm.
So I call them up and I say, "Look, I've seen your guy in the car. I'll meet you in the restaurant." So go in the restaurant, they turn up, having lunch, trying to sort this problem out.
Had you brought in any heavier people on your side?
No, I was on my own.
Negotiations.
I was on my own. And the Jamaican's not there, but he turns up out of the blue, comes in the restaurant, giving it all the rah, flashes a gun, lifts up his belt like this, flashes a gun, and it's a packed restaurant at lunchtime. So I stood up and I said loudly, "What, are you going to shoot me in front of all these people?" And the restaurant's gone absolutely dead silent. And I said, "Look at the camera there, look at the camera there. Are you really that stupid? Are you going to shoot me in front of all these people?"
Mm.
And the manager's come over and he's going, "You're going to have to leave." And I said, "Oh, I'm really sorry." And obviously, the Jamaican and his mates were all fucked off. So I paid the bill, sat down, had a drink, paid the bill, and left. But I mean, that's just to illustrate at the time what was going on, things like that were going on. And
did you ever resolve that issue with the?
Yeah,
Jamaicans?
the guy, one of them ended up dead.
Jesus.
Not the Jamaican, but one of them ended up dead. The guy from Yate, he's in the graveyard in Yate.
Mm.
But
so you're getting into some heavy stuff, then it's slightly outside the hippie rave sort of scene, and you're dealing with...
it was all getting a bit too much, really.
Mm.
So in the end, I move out of Bristol, back up to my area, just to get away from it all a bit. By that point, I've built up a reasonable amount of money. Not huge.
Like you said earlier, like where the London family was willing to trust you with 200-300 grand's worth, they must have saw you as a decent player, like a reliable, one of the reliable distributors then.
Yeah.
And so you got further, and you had very good contacts. You moved back to Gloucester area, and obviously you carried on in your ways.
End up living in a wing of a manor house up there, renting a 5-bedroom wing of a manor house.
Beautiful.
Really nice in Slad Valley, which is where, in fact, the manor house that I was renting was in Laurie Lee's side of Rosie. Steambridge Court, it is called. Had its own lake and everything. Yeah, really nice place. Living the life. But also, a lot of mayhem going on around me. Supplying some quite heavy people in my area. At one point, they ended up actually taking me because I ended up in debt with them because something had gone wrong. And I remember them driving me around. They got some bikers to pick me up and take me around debt collecting because I said, "Look, I owed money in turn. take me around, we'll go and collect it. So we drive around a few places trying to collect this money down to Wales, Bristol, all over the place. It all gets a bit heavy, and they say, you know, they phone up the main guy at the end of the day and say, look, we've collected in like 50 or 60 grand. Is that enough, or do you want us to bring him back, i.e. me? And he said, no, bring him back, I'm going to break his arm. And I was like, oh, fucking hell, here we go. So I was just, you know, they said, look, we're really sorry, but we're going to have to take you back, he's going to break your arm.
And so was this the
this
big,
is something in my ear.
So this was a case of they'd obviously paid for stuff and they were expecting stuff, but you'd obviously owed a certain amount you weren't getting.
I can't remember the exact...
Stuff wasn't getting released until you'd paid a certain amount. And
I can't remember the exact ins and outs,
yes.
but I ended up owing them some money. But yeah, anyway. So they take me back, and I said, I was just resigned to, you know, the fact I was going to get my arm broken, which wasn't a nice feeling. Get back there, and he says, oh, actually, fuck it, you know, I can see that you're serious about paying it back, you know. Carry on. I'm not going to break your arm today, but let that be a warning to you. So, yeah, it was all stressful. And I remember around that time developing a stomach ulcer, you know, nearly having a nervous breakdown. It was, you know, it wasn't easy money.
Of course, I mean, you weren't, from your upbringing, you weren't set up to be in that world.
No. And
you'd sort of fallen into a world that you weren't used to. Okay, your dad might have smoked a bit of cannabis, but it's slightly different from the world you'd fallen into at that point. It's very much organised crime, it sounds like.
Yeah.
And it's a very dark and heavy world.
Yeah. I mean, it's not as heavy as it is now. I don't... Well, I suppose it is, but in a different way, I suppose. But, yeah, so that went on for a little bit, living in that manor house, but it all came to a grinding halt when I got arrested.
Because prior to obviously getting arrested, you'd come onto the radar of the law enforcement. They'd become aware of who you were. Is that not right? While you were in Gloucestershire area.
I don't know. I mean, obviously, I've been arrested at Sixth Form College. I mean, I was a minor, but that was a few years.
So
earlier.
How did the arrest come around then? So
I never really got to the bottom of it. I don't know whether they were on me or whether at the time it was made out that I'd walked into an obbo on a guy near Still on the Wold, and they'd seen me come into the place, leave. They'd raided the house, found the guy trying to get the coke down the toilet.
Yeah.
Come speeding up the road after me. I'm driving a big red transit van, so you can't miss me. Pull me out there in a marked car, pull me over, you know, blue lights go on and pull me over, and I think, oh, I was hoping it was a routine traffic stop, I mean, I could just blag it. Straight away, I had a briefcase in the front, a locked briefcase with some drugs in it, and straight away they went into the front of the van, pulled the briefcase out, crowbarred it open. I went, oh, look what we found, and I was like, fucking hell. I mean, obviously they, you know, they knew it was there.
So what, do you think the guy sort of said to them, or just
no? I mean, because they saw they would see me going
with that briefcase, and then you came out with the briefcase.
Come out with it. So
what was in the briefcase?
I think at that time I think there was about 1,000 pills in there and a bit of coke.
Some money from the guy you'd just seen, or was it?
Possibly, I can't remember.
Okay.
And there was a sawed-off shotgun in the back of the van, broken down into component pieces. It wasn't, you know.
So why did you have that in there, in the broken
pieces?
Pieces?
That was in there for protection.
Yeah, from obviously the stuff that had happened before, all the yardies and stuff you'd now.
I mean, it was quite easy to put together. It was only 3 or 4 bits. I mean, it didn't do it in seconds.
Yeah, I was thinking that there's obviously been no use.
So, you know, I mean, I knew that keeping it broken into pieces, if I did get stopped and found with it,
yeah,
you know.
Yeah, it was unusual. So this was a serious arrest though, because like I say, obviously the guys, they've gone into it, they've seen a guy trying to flush a load of cocaine, so you've getting deal in there, you've got cocaine pills on you.
So they arrested me, take me to Cheltenham police station, and initially I wouldn't tell them where I lived, and they didn't know where I lived, so I knew from that it wasn't. The observation wasn't on me, because otherwise they would have known where I'd lived, and they didn't. And it took them about a day and a half to find the place. But
when you were in the cells,
so once they did, because they held me incommunicado.
Yeah.
But once they did, they found another. In total, it was like 5,000 pills, about 8 kilos of weed, 5 keys of cannabis, a few ounces of coke. I mean, a bit of everything. 600 fake pound coins, half a container load of stolen rollerblades, stolen Land Rover Discovery. I mean, if you look it up, it was they put it down at the time was the biggest bust in Gloucestershire, biggest quantities in this, that, and the other. I mean, whether or not it was, I don't know.
So some fingers and pies at this stage. And what age was you? So we can just get the time. So you were about 25 years old at this point.
No, I think I was about 23. Must have been about 20. Yeah, probably about 24, 25, I suppose, around that. So I spent 6 days in Cheltenham police station.
Jesus, 6 days in a police station in the cells?
Yeah, went no comment all the way through.
And so that's when they were just trying to find more and more stuff on you?
Yeah, and they just kept coming in.
That's a long time, other than like murder ones. I've never heard of something.
Well, on the third day, what happened was, bearing in mind I'd been held incommunicado, they take me out to Cheltenham magistrates to renew the custody time limits. I come out, there's the ACAT van there, and my lawyer's there, there's a helicopter overhead, outriders, everything, and something had changed. I knew it straight away. They get me, they weren't talking to me, like the police were really rough, get me in the back of the cage and all the rest of it. Get me back to the police station. I said, what the fuck's going on? And he said, look, one of the officers has been threatened by some of your people on the out. Bearing in mind, I've been incommunicado, no telephone calls, no visits from family in the 3 days I've been in custody. So in the minds of the police, they must be thinking, how the fuck is, he's got people on the out threatening our officers with death. This guy's obviously fucking really well connected. And they're starting to put the pieces together that I'm connected up in London to some families up there, and it's all going out, it's all spiralling out of control as it does. So
prior to this arrest though, where you're obviously a serious full-time drug dealer at this stage, had you got your head round the idea that you're going to end up going to jail at any points here, or was it just a case of, no, I'm never going to get caught, like until you crash a car? You don't think you're going to crash a car, do you?
Yeah, I mean the paranoia was ramping up as well. I mean, I was constantly expecting the door to come through, either from other criminals or from the police.
Yeah.
So again, that's another reason I had the sawn-off shotgun around me and other weapons and whatnot. And so the paranoia levels were through the roof as well. And when it finally happened, to some extent it's a relief.
It's crazy how many people you hear say that.
Yeah.
But the pressure seems to also drop off people at that moment.
Initially.
Yeah, just in that
not for long.
Second. So what happened then? Did you get reminded?
Yeah, so they reminded me into Gloucester, and they put me down as potential category A. I was the only pot cat A in Gloucester prison, and the first one they'd had there in years.
Were you separated from the rest?
Yeah, they put me on A wing on the twos on the second floor. I wasn't allowed to talk to anyone else. They had me on the book, on the book. So any movement coming in and out of the cell, I wasn't allowed out of the cell. I wasn't allowed to talk to anyone. They would shut the whole wing down just to take me to get my food. They'd have 2 officers in front, 2 behind me, to escort me down to the servery, get my food, take me back, lock me in the cell. I had to exercise in the yard on my own. All my calls were recorded, all my letters photocopied. Half of them I didn't even get. Visits behind the glass, if I could even get a visit. That went on like that for about 6 months.
And what were your feelings during that time then?
Obviously, it was just a fucking nightmare. They'd come in and strip search me almost daily.
Get very depressed or anything like this?
15-minute round the clock check, lie on, lie off, all of that. Yeah, it was just really invasive. Great, getting strip searched by female officers, which is illegal.
Yeah.
Like 2 of them coming in cell, just to humiliate,
Yes.
to humiliate and stress me out. I wasn't allowed phone cards in my possession.
So that must have been a horrific time for you. And on top of that, obviously never been in prison before. And on top of that, you haven't even got a finishing line. So you're in there for 6 months, being dealt with like that, not much interaction with other inmates, and you haven't got a finishing line. That must have been a very hard time for you then. At that
ended up doing nearly 2 years on remand.
Jesus.
Because my codees, they didn't get remanded. I was the only one that got remanded. So they were out on bail. They then got remanded for doing something else after about, 10 months, 11 months. Came in, they were in with me for a while. Then they managed to get bail again. And I said to them at the time, I said, look, I don't mind sitting there on remand. You just long it out as long as you can. I'll just sit here on remand. Because it's better on remand anyway. More visits and all the rest of it. So did just short of 2 years on remand.
And so after, did you get moved out of Gloucester at all then?
Once I got sentenced to Bristol
So
Crown
after
Court.
you were in Gloucester for 2 years.
It was just short of 2 years. Yeah.
And then what was the sentence?
Got 5 years.
5 years. So that's not too bad. Then. You'd already done the 2 as well on remand.
Yeah, one of the reasons that for the 5 year sentence was obviously first offence.
Yep.
And also the
Guilty plea.
Guilty plea after 9 months, and the judge brought up the fact that I'd gone guilty after 9 months, but spent nearly 2 years on remand.
Yeah.
And said it was like, it was unacceptable that I'd been put under that amount of pressure for that long and not been sentenced, which was true. I mean, it did start getting to me after a while because it's going on 2 years, not knowing what the fuck's going on, how long you're going to be in here for. And I was thinking, I'm going to be getting 8, 10 minimum. So
the 5 was a bit of a relief. That
it
was. It must have been
and
a
I
huge
thought,
relief.
And then, Christ, I've already done most of it.
Yep, in Gloucester, so you've got a few months to go. So what you did?
Do you know where they sent me? Parkhurst.
For 6 months. 6 months to go.
They ghosted me out. Well, it was a little bit more than 6 months. I think it was probably about 8 or 10 that I'd left to do.
So was this during the night or the real early morning one? At
the time, I remember I was working in a workshop by then doing paint and decorating, and they came and got me. The security team came and got me and said, you've been transferred, and I thought they were fucking about me because I was part of the listener scheme, and I thought, they just winded me up. But the one officer, I remember his name, Kerry, his name was, security screw, head of security. He was a fucker. So he's come and got me, took me back to my cell, locked me in my cell and said, you're being transferred tomorrow. And I said, what, you are joking, aren't you? He said, no. Some of the other officers came up and said, we're really sorry, but you're getting transferred tomorrow to Parkhurst. I was like, what the fuck? At that time, I was allocated to go to Earlstoke, which was a C category, because, like you say, I only had a few months left to go, and I'm in a B cat, I should be going down the way, and instead of that, I get ghosted on the eve of Valentine's Day. Wouldn't even let me phone my girlfriend to tell her that, not to bother coming. So she's turned up on Valentine's Day to find I'm not there, and I've been ghosted out to Parkhurst on high low point. And that was a shock.
I can imagine, especially coming from someone like Gloucester. Like Parkhurst got a reputation as being one of the
at that time,
harsh, most serious prisons in the country with a lot of serious inmates. So talk to me about your arrival there. And
so we spent, I think it was about 7 hours in a sweat box. The transport down didn't let us out once. Get down there. I remember they took a photograph for your security card. And I remember my eyes were going in different directions. I've been in the box so long. And it was all a bit daunting because I was thinking, fucking hell, Parkhurst is all. But
so at that time there was Parkhurst a Cat A jail?
No, it was Camp B. It lost its Cat A status after the Arif brothers. I think it was the Arifs escaped from there. So they were still running it like a Cat A, pretty much. My cell actually looked out on the what they call the doll's house, the prison within the prison. My codees actually ended up coming down there as well, oddly enough. I think it was something about our case, and also obviously that police officer getting threatened with their life, which was actually nothing to do with me. Well, it was kind of in the end, but I didn't ask for it to happen.
Yeah.
The guy that did is now dead as well. But so Cody's end up down there with me and a few other friends from Gloucester area.
And so talk to me about Parkhurst itself and jail itself. Did you have any difficult moments? Did anyone try and any violence towards you or anything like this?
Actually, I do remember one. I nearly got into a fight with a guy from London just over something stupid. I can't remember now. Came to the cell, shut the door behind him, started threatening me, but it all came to nothing in the end. Just have to stand your ground.
So you were quite good at sort of navigating through that
reasonably.
Time, being nice and polite, keeping your head down as such, not causing any friction between anyone.
Yeah.
And were there any sort of notable names in somewhere like Parkhurst at that time? Then did you make any contacts?
Not remember. No, not really. I mean, the guys that I went with were pretty. My codees were pretty serious people. I mean, at the time, I don't know if this was 98 it would have been. Oh no, hold on, what am I talking about? No, it was, it would have been 2001, something like that, 2002, and some of the people that we've been working with got sentenced. Just trying to remember his name. But anyway, it was a huge case, and me and my co-D had nearly got nicked. The whole group had been taken out in 1998 with 600 and something kilos on a boat in Kerry, and about 430 kilos in London.
Jesus.
And we've been getting our coke from them, and the night of the first guy getting busted, we'd been down to collect like 3 keys of coke from him, and he hadn't turned up. He'd been stopped about half a mile short of meeting us at Marble Arch, and been arrested with like 30 keys of coke in the boot of the car, which some Lebanese diplomat had backed to him, who'd been caught with it, squealed, and set him up, backed the 30 keys of coke to get him arrested. And that then led to the boat in Kerry getting taken out and all these other people getting arrested. And they finally got sentenced when we were in Parkhurst, because I remember it being on the front page of the newspapers and all the rest of it. And yeah, so that was the sort of people that we've been dealing with anyway. So.
Very serious circles then.
Yeah.
While you were inside those 2.5 years, were you partaking in drugs at all? Were you smoking cannabis or anything like this?
Nothing.
No. And while you were in there, what were your intentions when you got released? Were you thinking, right, I'm done with this now, I don't want to come back to these places?
Pretty much.
Yeah.
I mean, well, yes and no.
Yeah, because obviously while you're in there, they call it sort of it's the sort of university of crime.
Finishing school. Yeah.
And so you were sort of meeting with lots of other serious criminals and like sharing stories with them, learning how they'd been caught, making contacts, and without trying to just while being in there.
Yeah, I mean, oddly enough, I didn't really make that many contacts in there, to be honest. I mean, because I had such strong contacts anyway. Didn't really meet anyone further up the chain.
Yeah, did you meet any friends or anything that you sort of carried on meeting outside or kept contact with?
Yeah, there were a couple of guys actually. Some of the Asian guys I remain, and I'm still friends with to this day. Yeah, out of everyone, it was probably those guys that I'm still friends with now.
Okay, and so did you get released from Parkhurst? Or did you
No,
get sent back to Gloucester again in order
got
to be
sent
released?
to Elstow for release.
Yeah.
So did the last few months in Elstow, got released out there.
How were you passing your time in jail? Were you working in there or were you studying in there?
Well, at the tail end of my time at Gloucester, like I said, I was doing painting and decorating, learning the trade and whatnot. And then got transferred to Parkhurst, and they, said, "Oh, do you want to pack tea bags?" And I said, "No, thanks." I said, "Just leave me behind the door."
Tea bags, what?
Yeah, not really.
What a job.
Yeah. So, just stayed in my cell, reading, writing, studying, doing whatever.
So you're a keen reader?
Yeah, well, I was in prison. I mean, you have plenty of time to do it then, don't you? So, yeah, you used to go through quite a lot of books. So
you end up getting released from there then in the early 2000s and from Elstow.
Yeah.
And so what was the plan for you at these times there? So what were you at this? You must have been 26 years old, somewhere around there? Or just...
How old would I have been? Yeah, about that.
About 26, 27 years old.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean,
So you come out of jail. What did you do? Go back to your dad's or mum's?
Yeah, I went back to my dad's. My stepmum's dad's place. She said, you can come back and stay until you get yourself sorted out. So did that to begin with. I was on parole, so had to see through that little bit of time on parole. And yeah, I mean,
Get a job?
No, I started my own painting and decorating company.
Good.
Pieter Painting. So started that with the help of my dad, because he was still doing the building work at the time. So he would sort of do the building work, then give me the painting.
It just worked perfectly then.
Yeah, so that was nice and easy inroad. But in my time at Parkhurst, I had said to my co-Ds, that if when I get out, I do plan to go straight, but if I decide to get back into it, then I think the only thing I'm going to do is import cocaine, cut all the middlemen out, go to South America, bring it in straight from there, because we're too well known in Britain now, especially to the local police in Gloucestershire. There's no way we're going to be able to do anything locally.
So it sounds like the opposite of being deterred. There's no halfway measures of someone like you. You decided to just leapfrog the whole lot and.
Yeah, yes and no.
So
But
where did this come from then? The idea that you could import it. Obviously, we know it comes in.
I'd already done a little bit of importing. I'd already imported some ecstasy from Holland and stuff. Nearly got caught, didn't, got it through. So, it was something that I'd been thinking about anyway. But one of the main things, I remember I was reading the Sunday Times in Parkhurst, and I'd seen a story about people bringing the cocaine impregnated into plastic garden furniture. And that to me it seemed like a genius idea, because 9/11 had just happened, and all the problems with the terrorism had flared up. So loads of mules and passengers coming in, carrying bags of coke, in their baggage, were getting caught, with the extra security checks.
Yeah.
So I quickly realised that all that sort of way of bringing cocaine into the country was dead in the water, really. And also from seeing what had happened with these guys with the boat in Kerry and all the rest of it, that as well was becoming harder because of the extra security. And it's just all becoming difficult.
So when did you decide to sort of put this plan into realisation, and how long did you keep your nose clean for when you came out of jail then, doing decorating?
I did stay away from it all for quite a while.
How long?
And then
6 months or a year or so?
Yeah. About that.
That's
yeah,
what happened.
something
Did
like
you start partaking in drugs, getting back into the
Probably
circles?
a little bit, but then...
What was your drug of choice at them times? Was it smoking, or did you like...
No, it was coke. I used to smoke weed, but it's never been my thing, really. It didn't agree with me. So I started, seeing a few old mates, did a little bit of coke. And also people started ringing me, old faces started popping up and saying, oh, can you sort this out? Can you do this? Can we do that? Come and meet this guy and this, that, the other. I was like, don't really want to, but... started getting sick of the paint and decorating, didn't really see that it was going to go anywhere, and it was a slog, and it just felt like I was getting into the 9-to-5 grind of, just making enough money to survive, and only surviving, and, not really
your
progressing.
Mischievous streak was playing tricks with your mind.
Yeah, and, started wanting to do some sort of business of my own again. Well, it wasn't my own business, but something, bigger. And I think there was just a point at which, I call it the fuck it point, the point in which I just went fuck it,
That's a bad point, it's a bad switch, that's what I say to my friends.
It's that snap point. It just comes, I think, with some people, there's just a time comes and you just go,
Some people it comes quicker than others, I think everyone's got it. But,
Sorry.
And so, you decided, right, there's no more of this little low level, I want to get into the importation thing. And how would you ever go about realising something like this? Like, did you have contact? like for me, if I wouldn't have the first clue of where to start if I wanted to do something from Colombia or Ecuador or something.
So basically went to one of my codees from the first case and said, look, have you got any contacts up in London with you can put us into touch put us in touch with any South Americans, preferably Colombians, so we can try and sort something out. And he said, "Oh, give me a week or two, and I'll come back to you." And a couple of days went by, and he rang me up and said, "Yeah, a friend of mine can introduce you to some Colombians down in Kennington." So by this point, I'd already started sourcing coke for a couple of people down in South Wales. So I was already sort of starting to dabble again, and a couple of other people as well, actually. So went and met these Colombians, and started initially just to buy coke from them, just to feel them out a bit, and see what they're all about. So I'd do a couple of deals with them, buy a couple of keys of coke, that all goes alright. And then on the third or fourth time I said, look, the real reason I'm here is because I want to start bringing this stuff in myself. I can get the financial backing, someone is going to put the money up, but I need a source for it out there. And they said, well, as it happens, we're already bringing it in, and we're bringing it in impregnated in rubber, in the ground sheets of tents. And I was like, fucking hell, that's fantastic, because that's the kind of method that I had in mind anyway, something like that. So it just seemed, like destiny had laid it out before me to some extent. And
did they invite you to get involved in the schemes then, to maybe invest some money?
Yeah. So we sat down, we hammered it out between us, and we sort of formed a partnership. Me, Colombian and Chilean guy, and we said, well, this will be the partnership. The Colombian will take care of getting the tents made, which he was anyway, out in Cali, Colombia. The Chilean will help out with all that and organising things in London, and then I'll organise the logistics of passengers and and the sale of it back here. And also, obviously, the Colombian and the Chilean will deal with the extraction and the reformation of the coke here, which I ended up learning myself after a few trips. So yeah, we put this.
And so were you going on like an actual partnership where you'd sell it and all split the profit? Or yeah. And so, how much was it costing you guys to get brought over, obviously with the mules and stuff like this? By the time it got turned back, what would it be coming to you guys at?
Worked it out the other day for somebody. It was. I think it was costing us about $8,000 a kilo. Over there, by the time it was made up and then transported, obviously from Colombia to either Venezuela or Ecuador or another country where they don't really produce cocaine, a transit country, it was coming to about $8,000 a kilo, and with the guy's part share in Colombia, because obviously we were paying him as well, so part of the money. I think it was about $8,000 a kilo. And then we would pay a passenger about £10,000 or £12,000 to bring. I mean, we were doing 3 or 4 keys a time minimum.
Okay. Yeah. And you'd find the mules yourself?
Yeah, generally. Yeah.
And would they be your friends or something who would need finance?
No, I mean some weren't. Some weren't. I mean, I was quite careful about trying to find people. I would generally try and find people with no criminal record or with minimal criminal record, preferably nothing to do with drugs. Preferably someone that was quite straight going, someone that looks half respectable. Did
you sit down with them and sort of give them a little story or something like this?
Yeah.
Would they be going out their partners or on their own each time?
I mean, the first one I did myself.
Jesus.
Because I decided to do that because I didn't want to send off other people to do something that I hadn't done myself.
Fair play to you.
And I wanted to feel what it was like to bring it back, and also so that I would know what to tell any passengers, what to expect and how to deal with things and whatnot.
Okay, and obviously you'd just come out of prison for stuff
Not
like
long
this,
ago.
So it was quite the risk. So you went to one of the other Ecuador,
first
and obviously stuff got sent there, and so you went out there for a couple of weeks.
Couple of weeks it was supposed to be,
and it was a holiday as such.
Yeah. Yeah.
How was Ecuador? So it's your first time in South America, and how was it? Did you have people out there to look after you, or just...
No, just arrived there, got a hotel. I remember the first night just booked into the Hilton because there's a Hilton everywhere, and then after that first night found somewhere else that was cheaper and more low key. Sat around in Quito for a few days and then just started doing a few touristy things, like go and see the volcanoes and whatnot, Cotopaxi, stuff like that. Whilst I was waiting for the guy coming down from Colombia.
Enjoy your time there, or were you just
it was alright.
Trying to get the stuff and wanted to get back?
Really. So the guys turned up. I bought an Ecuadorian mobile phone. Passed the number back to London. They passed it on to the Colombian who's meeting me. So he's turned up with the tent. He's sent a taxi for me. I get in the taxi, drive off through Quito, get out and meet this Colombian guy, quite a big guy, ex sort of military crew cut, paramilitary guy. He takes me to this sort of compound, shall we say, with a sliding metal gate, solid metal gate that slides over, slides back, go in up a set of stairs, go into this upper story building or apartment or whatever, and the door closes behind me and there's a fucking gun hanging on the back of the door, like a long, rifle or something, or some sort of shotgun. I was like, oh, great, that's good. And he goes, oh, don't worry. He spoke a little bit of English, and I picked up a little bit of Spanish by that point. So he's laid this tent out before me, opened it up, big 10-man tent, huge. And he said, oh, look, because I was a bit sceptical, I said, look, is it definitely in there? And he said, yeah. He said, just chew the corner of it, and your mouth will go numb. So, sure enough, chew the corner of it, and my mouth had gone screaming numb, so obviously the coke is in there. So I was like, okay, that's good. So we rolled the tent back up, packed it up, put me in a taxi back to the hotel, and then just hung out for a few days more in Quito. I think I stayed for the full 2 weeks. Yeah, I did.
Were you taking a lot of cocaine at them times while you're out next door?
No, nothing.
No.
That was one of the rules that I set for all of us involved. Whilst we were working, there was no drinking, no taking drugs for none of us, no partying. Afterwards, yes, once it was all done, sold, the money's safe, everything's put away, yeah, fine. But not during and not before. For 2 weeks before, nothing. Because just to have a straight head on. So yeah, just in fact. On that first trip, I remember buying loads of presents for my family, including things like a ceramic plate, and I forgot there was a luggage limit allowance. Get to the airport with all these trinkets and stuff.
And what were the nerves like going into there? Were you?
Yeah, I was alright.
Or were you just such a risk taker that just unfazed?
Yeah, it was the adrenaline, wasn't it? I am quite calm.
Adrenaline junkie. So.
Yeah, I am quite calm in high pressure situations. I did nearly become a paramedic whilst living in Bristol. By the time I was aged 20, I'd seen like 8 people die in front of me. Actually, die in front of me. So I was quite used to things like that, and just quite good under pressure.
So when you came into the airport and the bag was a load overweight, and that was that quite a good little diversion anyway, because it just took the attention
I suppose off. Yeah. It didn't help because obviously that flagged me up.
Yeah. So what did you do? Did you have to pay it next, or did you take some of the bits out?
Well, yeah, I ended up getting. First of all, I tried to pay the excess, but the excess was something like $400 or $500. So they said, well, you can get rid of a load of stuff. Why don't you get rid of that tent? And I said, oh no, I need the tent, but I'll get rid of a load of these gifts. And they must have thought, what the fuck? So I'm giving away all these, ceramic plates and pottery, this, that, and the other, and T-shirts to all the people working in the restaurants and cafes in the airport. So made their day. Get within reasonably within range of the luggage limit. I think I paid some of the excess. Get on the plane, land at Schiphol because it was KLM. Land at Schiphol, Amsterdam.
Yeah, so what, you just didn't want to fly back into England with your record?
No, there was no direct flight.
Direct flight, yes.
Yeah. So
how many people were on the plane and stuff? Was it packed?
Yeah, it was pretty. I wouldn't say it was packed. It was pretty busy. Maybe 2/3 full, something like that. So we arrive in
Amsterdam.
Yeah, Schiphol, and I'm pretty much towards the back of the queues of people coming up to like passport control or whatever. And there's literally a line of drug squad officers there, all plainclothes, Dutch drug squad. I was thinking, great. And they're looking at everybody's passport, and I see one of them look down the line, see me, and he's I don't know whether he had a picture of me or what, but he's looked across at his mates, and they've all looked at me, and I knew right then I was going to get stopped and searched. And sure enough, I get to them and they say, right, come with us. Go into a back room, there's like about 7 or 8 people in there. I think I was about the only white guy there, or European. So I'm thinking, oh fuck, here we go again. So I just stay calm. And they called me into an office to interview me, and they say, oh, where have you been? And I said, well, I've been in Ecuador, what have you been doing? And I had a load of brochures with me and tourists, this, that and the other, and I said, well, I've been here, I've been there, I've done this, I've done that. I was on a vacation, first time in South America, not been before. And they're like, okay. And I was thinking any minute now they're going to pull that tent out and go, well, we found this. And in the end he went, yeah, okay, you're free to go. And I was like, really? What the fuck? So I think the tent, because the way it was done, it can't be detected by X-ray or scanner.
Dogs?
They use a reactive spray. to like throw the scent off. And obviously it can't be drilled, and you can counteract the liquid, by putting in another chemical. So it's a pretty good system. And
so you got through it. Talk to me about the buzz.
So I got through it, yeah.
The
so
buzz must have been insane.
I was actually thinking, when I get back to England, because obviously I have to take the connecting flight, I was thinking I'm going to get back to England and get stopped there and definitely arrested.
Same process.
So arrive at Stansted and just walk straight out.
Yeah, do you think they'd sort of missed the fact that you'd been detected, or it's just literally they're just seeing that?
No, I think because
they'd marked you've been searched.
Because I've been searched and questioned in Holland. Wherever you land within the European Union, the first point of entry is where you're going to get stopped and checked. If you clear there, you're in, pretty much.
Yeah. So.
So I'd already cleared, unbeknown to me, well, kind of knowingly, but I did think I was going to get stopped.
But you felt a lot more confident having passed the first one straight through.
So, having got that first 10 through, I was completely hooked. I was like, well, this system obviously is blinding. It obviously really works very well.
Of course, and the stuff you're getting back through was obviously, I'm guessing, was pure cocaine.
Only the pure comes out when you do the reprocess it.
Yeah, and so I'm guessing you weren't selling that as it was, even though you're getting it so cheap. You must have obviously been. Yeah,
we were cutting it. We would normally do 60% coke, 40% cut. I mean, we'd do a few tests on it to see how it would get washed back and stuff like that.
And what would you cut it with at those times there?
We were getting phenacetine, which is other people magic, which was fairly new at that time. But yeah, that was perfect because it was so new. A lot of people didn't know about it. So when they would wash it up into crack to test the purity, which was the standard test at the time, it was still showing 90%, and it was set quickly. Wouldn't go gloopy like it often does if there's too much of that stuff in there.
Where would you source stuff like that from at them times? Just from the underworld?
I think the Colombians were sourcing the phenacetine.
Okay, so they were in on it as well. Like, it's a partnership. It wasn't the case of you were getting the pure stuff and then.
Oh no! It was a full partnership all the way through. Yes. Yeah. So once it was sold, everything was divvied up 3 ways. I mean, everything was all the cost. I mean, it was a complete business.
So once you've got that first one come through, cut it up, sold it, and that, like you say, you were absolutely hooked at that point. So it's a case of, when can I get the next?
Yeah, basically, it was immediately. Let's send another one. We have bags of money. I mean, I think we each made about 100 grand on the first job, and it was just happy days. Just put the money away. I was like, let's do another one. Obviously, we had to reinvest some of the money. But,
absolutely. And so you quickly found someone willing to go out there.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. When you start flashing 10 grand in front of someone going, have a free holiday. But I mean, what I did to make it easier for the passengers was, rather than sending them out there blind, not knowing the person they were going to meet, not speaking Spanish, I probably foolishly decided to go back out with them to then bridge that gap. I would take the bag off the Colombian, because I knew him by that point, and then give it to the passenger. The passenger would then go off, and we would reconnect the other side.
Yeah, standard stuff, but it's obviously putting yourself right in
there.
Yeah,
but I'm putting myself on offer, which was probably not a good idea. But I just felt it would work better, and in some respects it did, because we never lost a passenger, not one. And I would say to them, the passenger, I would say, look, if you do get stopped in England, because you're not going to get stopped in South America, but if you do get stopped in South America, we will try and buy you out. We'll do our best to get you out for you. We won't just leave you there to rot. But if you get stopped in England, obviously you're going to get remanded, but we will get you a barrister, and all you have to do is tell your barrister, I mean, we would have told them what to say anyway, but tell the barrister to take a piece of rubber, hold it up before the jury, and say to the jury, would any member of the jury be able to tell that this is a piece of cocaine? And not one of them's going to say yes. So straight away there's an element of doubt in the case, and a big element of doubt. Because, as a passenger, you could say, somebody came to me, the old spiel, someone asked me to carry this back through, but I said, no fucking way, I think there's drugs in it. And the guy said, no, there's definitely not. And I made him open it up. Felt all the way through it. Couldn't feel any lumps. Couldn't see any cocaine. Couldn't see any powder in there. How was I to know that there was cocaine in that? So this was the spiel.
Yeah, so you had a little out for them if it did sort of come on top.
And also, we were very careful, certainly on the English side, that the passengers didn't have any direct links by telephone to us, or basically the passengers would be met. Say we were leaving from Heathrow, we would meet them at Heathrow, go with them to wherever we were going in South America, get the bag, give the bag to them, and then they would go back. So we would be very careful about them being anywhere near us.
And so now you've started making some real serious money then at this point here. So how often were you sending these mules out there?
We were doing probably one a month, but also we were having jobs coming to us from other people, other South Americans who were using similar methods, or other methods. So in order to supply the demand that we had now created, we were needing extra coke from other people, so we were taking jobs off other people, processing it for them, because they didn't really know how to do it. So we would process it, cut it, pay them. We would quite often just buy it straight off them for a reduced rate whilst it was in the rubber.
Yeah, it's a good
so
position
then,
you're in at
yeah,
that
just
point,
buy them out quick, and then we can just process it out, cut it, and we're making good money. So yeah, we got quite busy.
So you're absolutely flying at them points there, making some real good money, and then at a certain point, a lab ended up getting opened up in Scotland. Is that correct?
That was the last one that got taken out. No, the first one was in Crystal Palace.
Okay. To talk to me about how that came and how it came about them busting it. And
I don't know how they actually came about busting it. I think because I was actually in Cali in Colombia at the time that got busted.
So what were you doing in Cali then at this time here? Going to meet the main man out there? Or?
Yeah, well I was with the guy out there who was putting it all together. So, and I was also meeting some of his contacts out there, some of the Cali cartel. We were on one of the trips, on that actual trip I went to see 100 kilos in a safe house there, which is a whole other story I'll tell another day.
But they sort of treated you really well while you were out there.
Yeah. Well, I was living in his house with his family, him and his family, and driving around doing it.
Well, obviously to them it's worthless in South America.
Yeah.
You're the person who's turning it into hard money.
Yeah, I mean it's $2,000 a kilo out there.
Yeah, you're the most vital cog in the organisation, weren't you?
Yeah. So yeah, it was quite good. I enjoyed Colombia. I really like it out there. Living, having a good time. So I think on that occasion I just sent a passenger back from Ecuador, then flown up to Cali to see the guys, putting together another job. There was supposed to be another passenger coming out, which I was then going to send back and then come home. And as the first ones got back from Ecuador and they were processing it, I think, or they were already processing another one, the lab got taken out in Crystal Palace. I think they were having too many people in there. There was a whole bunch of Colombians in there, just all being flashed, which they shouldn't have had.
Colombians are known to really like to socialise.
Yeah, as soon as they get money, they start just flashing it, buying flash cars, and just doing loads of coke. And I told them, I said, don't start all that shit, and particularly not around the lab, for fuck's sake. Well, I don't know what had happened, but something had obviously gone wrong, and they'd not been doing what they should have been doing. Sure enough, the door comes through. I think they got caught in there with like 3 or 4 keys of coke. The press, precursor chemicals, the cutting agent, the whole fucking lot. So that was like, oh fuck. I'm in Cali. I'm like, oh god. What?
Any connection to the flat for you or the lab? Or?
No, I'd not been in that flat or that lab. But my Colombian, my partner, and the Chilean both got arrested in there. So they're both, unbeknown to me, they're what?
Remanded.
Remanded. So I'm in Colombia and I'm not sure whether to come home. And
so you'd found out that they'd been busted?
Yeah, the Colombian was married to the guy in Cali's niece or something like that. It was a family connection anyway.
Yeah,
so we quickly found out. what had gone on, like the day after it had happened or something, because obviously all the phones went off and we're like, what the fuck's gone on? Started phoning the family and they said, oh yeah, they took out a lab yesterday. I was like, shit.
So what's your thinking then at these times here? You're sat in Calais.
I was thinking I might be becoming Colombian. To get a Colombian passport. So yeah, I sort of went on the low down in Colombia, went off to the north of Colombia and went and saw an English girlfriend of mine up there for a bit, had a bit of a holiday, chilled out, you know, laid low for a bit, and then decided to go back to England because nothing had happened around me or around my house.
None of your doors had been knocked or anything
exactly.
like this.
So I thought, you know, I'd just take a risk and go back home. So flew back into Heathrow, I think it was. Had a huge bill on the car I'd left in the parking. Like a month and a half bill or something stupid. And I'm pretty sure the police had been into the vehicle, because by that point I think we were already suspicious that we were under surveillance. I can't remember why or what. Something had happened, and I think we'd been tipped off that we were possibly under surveillance. And I remember getting back into the Mercedes that I had, and I remember seeing the what do they call it? The bit that runs down from the roof to the by the door.
Lining or the trims down?
Yeah, like the trim.
The rubber trims?
Down, what do they call it?
I don't know, it's the bit that goes down the side of the windscreen?
Yeah, down the side of the windscreen,
yeah.
You know, from the roof. Anyway, the trim had been pulled out, and I think they'd had a microphone or something in there, because I remember that it was definitely not pulled out when I left the car there. 100% it wasn't. So, yeah, I mean, it later emerged. I mean, we did end up having someone on the payroll in the police force, in the Met, through a third party, not direct, through a third party, who had confirmed that we were under surveillance. They were providing the surveillance notes which tallied with our movements, so I knew that they were genuine.
Yeah.
That went on for a while. I mean, that's getting the notes until the third party started playing us for cash.
Yeah, and so at these points here, then you come back, you notice something isn't quite right. A lab's been busted, so did you keep your head down? You weren't getting involved in anything?
No, we kept on, because, I mean, you know, I was that confident in the system.
Well, in terms of bringing it across, it is.
And also, you know, you're caught up in it all again, and there's, you know, there's a lot of people downstream that are sort of reliant on it. I mean, I could have probably walked away at that point.
It's hard to get out, and you certainly didn't want to at that point.
Yeah, you know, the arrogance is there, and you think, oh, I'm not going to get caught. You know, start playing cat and mouse, trying to be clever.
And so this is when you needed another lab to be opened then.
Genuinely, every time we got one in, we'd do it in a different place.
Okay.
We'd set up a different lab, nearly every time, or we'd rotate it back to the, you know, we'd do it, and then come back to the one that we used before, as long as we felt it was safe.
Yeah,
we wouldn't really do it
in the places.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, obviously I was like pretty touchy-feely for a bit. The Colombian got released after 6 months, which we were all suspicious of. And sure enough, I mean, it later emerged that he'd been flipped by the police. They threatened to deport his family, including his parents, who'd been here for years. Threatened to deport his girlfriend and his kid. You know, they really did a number on him and rolled him over. So he became an informant for them. But
with him getting released after 6 months, did you guys not have your suspicions about this?
Yeah, sure. And I mean, in the time that him and the Chilean had been in prison, obviously the Chilean stayed in prison, I'd been paying all their bills, the family's bills, looking after their rent, their food, everything, because that was the agreement that we'd made. That if any of us got arrested, whoever was left out.
Yeah, and you hope that that's going to stop people flipping and stuff like this if they know they're taken care of.
So he gets out. I turn up there with 30 grand in cash and go, look, there's 30 grand. Welcome back. There's a bit of money.
Decent. Most people do that.
And all the time he's there.
Why did you go meet him then if you had the suspicions? Though? You weren't
I didn't. Sure. I wasn't sure at that point.
Yeah, so you thought it might have been falling on the Chilean. He's just got out by chance and luck.
Yeah.
And did he manage to gain your trust again around
these
times?
So obviously, I mean, because it was his link really in South America. So we started putting things together again. But I remember on one occasion he broke down in tears and nearly told me. I remember the night vividly. You know, I could tell that he was on the verge of telling me something.
So sort of eating him up as such. It
yeah,
was.
totally. But yeah. So I sort of, to some extent, I thought, well, you know, I can maybe use this to my advantage and feed information through him, so to, you know, start playing.
Very, very dangerous game you're playing.
But it's a very fucking dangerous game.
So now it's just a case of it's how long you've got left when you've got an informant in the camp. As much as you think you can play them or something like this, it's just about.
So I mean, you know, sure enough, we start seeing movement around us. You know, we start seeing the same cars, faces back and forth, and you know, you start seeing surveillance around you. And I'm doing counter surveillance, you know, manoeuvres and this, that, and the other.
Obviously, you've been in the game for a few years at this point, so I'm sure you're very much
being really careful, not really using phones. You know, turning phones off 30 miles before meeting people, and you know, taking the chips, the battery out. Not talking in cars, not talking in any confined environment. You know, not indoors, not in a hotel, nowhere. Walking out into the middle of a field, miles from fucking anywhere to have a conversation. Having to fly to Hungary and back in the day for a conversation with a Hungarian and stuff like that. Just, you know, doing miles on planes.
So what was how did you got involved with Hungarian at this
time? I had contacts all around Europe, in Italy, France, Spain, Hungary.
So were you sending loads other countries?
We were thinking about,
such a good sort of way of getting it in that it was. Yeah. And you know, in terms of you're doing it with the mules. Why didn't you just send it back in a container or something like this? At this point, like a whole container.
We were about to. We were about to up the game and do a load of tents send it back in a container, because obviously a container is a much safer method and it takes out the X factor of the mule getting caught.
And they would have been able to do 100 times more.
That was literally our next manoeuvre. We'd got the money out together to do like 50 keys. We were going to do 50 or 100. And in fact, that's, I think, was the reason I went to see the 100 kilos in Cali that time. Was you know, we were starting to talk about building.
So you must have had some very strong connections then in Cali. The fact you're getting shown 100 keys, you had very, very high, and these were proper people within the Cali cartel and stuff. So did you meet some of the high up people in the cartel at any point? Or everyone's high up?
I don't know. I mean, not really.
Yeah, they
don't think so.
They don't have job titles. I have this position within the Cali.
I mean, I remember getting shown around.
Well, if people could access 100 kilos, that sort of says it all, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And you're getting shown that.
Yeah. I mean, I remember on one occasion getting driven out to a finca out in the countryside and getting driven past loads of these really nice fincas with private pools and you know, ranches that were pointed out to me, and they were ex-capos places, and you know, they were dead and this, that and the other. Really nice properties.
So you did consider buying one of these properties?
Yeah, we did actually. Yeah,
and just being based out in Colombia.
Yeah, I mean, I did say to the Colombian, you know, why don't we buy you a ranch so that when I come out and we come out, we've got somewhere to stay. You know, a big place that we can, you know, make something of and maybe do something with as well. And we were going to buy somewhere. So it was getting to the point.
You were getting deep. Well, you're already deep, but you were getting.
Yeah. So unfortunate. Well, I mean, I say unfortunately. I mean, it was fucking unfortunate. You know, it all went tits up in Edinburgh.
And so, why was the lab in Edinburgh? You'd obviously carried on distributing to the Scottish side of your.
Yeah. So. Yeah, I'd rented a place up in Edinburgh. I mean, I was just using it for my own sort of purposes as well. And I'd put my sister in there to stay because she was at uni in Glasgow, so she was using it as, instead of a student, I said use it for free whilst I'm not there, because I wasn't there all the time, obviously. So when the time came for me to use it for the lab, I said, obviously she didn't know what the fuck was going on. I said, look, you need to go away. So she went over to Ireland for a week, and in that time I got a Colombian and his sister up from London. And
it wasn't the Colombian, was it?
No. Because I was trying to keep him at arm's length by this point. He didn't know where the lab was, and we'd actually brought in 2 tents this time simultaneously on the same plane. So we were doing 2 back to back, one of which was to do with the Colombian in London, and the other was another group that I'd become involved with as well by this point. So we were doing the 2 together, and somehow the Colombian in London had found out about the Colombian that I was employing to do the work, and the police had tailed him up to fucking Edinburgh and plotted up on the lab. And yeah, there was a huge bust there. Basically, I'd gone out. No, what happened? Yeah, I'd gone out, and the Colombians in the lab had phoned me up and said, "Look, Pete, we think there's police watching the lab, because it was on like the 3rd or 4th floor. This place, huge 5-bedroom apartment." And they said, "Look, we think there's the police."
That sounds lovely.
It was an old merchant's apartment, Georgian high ceilings,
beautiful,
really nice. Down in Leith, the dock area. So they said, "Look, there's a car sat down the back with a woman and a man that keep looking up at the flat." And I said, "That's got to be the police." So I go back, I was in the transit van again, park the van just across from the flat, go up the stairs, look out the window. Sure enough, I said, "That's 100%, that's the police." I said, "I'm getting the fuck out of here. I'm gone. I'm going to go and stay the night in a hotel. I'll get you out of here now. Let's get everything out." And they were like, "No, we're not sure. We don't think it's the police. We'll stick around. We don't want to leave the drugs. We don't want to do this." I said, "Look, that's up to you, but I'm gone. This is on your head. If it comes down, I've warned you. I'm out." So I've gone, and I thought, I'll leave the van there, and I'll get a taxi to the hotel. So I get a taxi to the hotel, and next morning I start ringing them up. All the phones are off. I was like, "Fuck, that doesn't sound good."
Well.
So get a taxi down, and I'm thinking, because we were using radios as well, and they were all dead as well. Get a taxi down. It all seems quiet. It all looks alright. Go up, and the doors are all smashed in. It's like boarded up, plywood. So obviously it's been raided. So I phoned.
You've called the landlord then. So had you got the place in your name, or
No. It's in a fictitious name.
In a fictitious name. You'd actually gone directly and put your face and met the landlord. And what about?
Landlord was a friend.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
What about your sister was staying there? Yeah, was there any of her possessions? Or
Yeah,
this sort of stuff?
she got called in for questioning. Obviously,
God.
they actually threatened to try and involve her. I phoned up the police.
Yep.
Police Scotland or Edinburgh, whatever they call themselves, and they said, "Look, can you come in for questioning?" And I said, "Well, not really. I'm a little bit busy in the moment. I'm down in England." I wasn't, but I said I was. And they said, "Oh, when do you think you'll be next back up?" And I said, "I don't really know, to be honest." And they said, "Well, it would be an awful shame if your sister was to be involved in, to be implicated in this." And
I said, "She's from the cells at this point."
No.
No, she'd been released on bail then.
Yeah.
So
No, she wasn't bailed. I mean,
never got brought in as such, but they were.
I said to them, "Look, I said, don't start all that fucking bullshit." I said, she's not involved. Don't start going down that line, because otherwise, there's going to be fireworks. I said, just leave it out. Just don't bother, because it's not going to go anywhere. She's not involved. Just, leave it out. So I went back down to England anyway. The Colombians got remanded. And I knew the forensics are going to come back.
Yeah. And so things were really getting on top at this point. You've had the Crystal Palace one there. You've got an informant in your circle. You've then busted in Scotland, which you are massively connected to at this point. So things are on top.
Yeah. So I hang around down in England for about a month.
Keeping your head down.
And I knew the forensics are going to be coming back any minute now. So I thought, fuck this.
So what you thought? You'd been in the lab so much, there's going to be a lot of your DNA fingerprints everywhere.
Yeah, I mean, I'm on the phone to the police. They know I was in there.
Yeah, you just.
They know.
You're not even hiding it at this point, because you know you're tight.
Yeah. So So
real quickly, what was in the lab then when it was busted? Was it the same as the Crystal Palace when they had everything in there? Drugs.
And they didn't really find any drugs. They found traces of cocaine.
Precursors.
They found precursor chemicals, the remains of a 15-ton floor standing press. Just bits and pieces.
But enough remnants then in order for you to.
Yeah.
You could have got in trouble then.
Oh
yeah. There's no lying.
I mean that I knew this wasn't, like you said, the Crystal Palace thing had happened and something else had happened as well, and I knew that they was all getting linked together and there was going to be a big fucking case.
So what was the plan and what did you end up doing then at them times there?
So I got smuggled out of Britain by the Turkish mafia.
Jesus. So how the hell would you go about?
How
did you know the Turkish mafia? And
I was involved with a Turk from Swindon. He was involved with the Turkish mafia.
Yeah.
I mean, he was pretty high up. He was involved with alcohol and tobacco smuggling, but I mean on a huge scale, container loads at a time. Also involved with cannabis and stuff like that. I'd been out to Holland and met some of his contacts out there. So I was pretty pally with him.
But what made you decide to obviously get yourself smuggled out? You knew you didn't want to go back to jail.
I knew the time.
Writing was on the wall at that point.
Yeah, I knew it was only a matter of time before they were going to come for me.
So you decided, right, I need to get out of the country.
Yeah. So I just, I said, look, I rang him up. I said, look, can you get me out? And he said, yeah. So got smuggled out through Dover on the hovercraft in the boot of his Mercedes car. Got into the boot at Dover, and it's a short crossing.
Yes.
Got through fine. Because they're not looking for people going out.
Yeah.
They are a little bit more now. It's a little bit more.
Yeah, but it's certainly a lot easier to get out than get in with anything.
So get through, get out, and they sorted me out a car as well, a ringer. Got a car brought out from England because he owed me some money. He owed me 20 grand. So he had a car brought out for me, sorted me out of the car.
In France, this was?
Yeah.
And so whereabouts in France was this then? You were...
This was in the north at the time, but then I disappeared down south to a house that we have out there. So laid up out there for a bit. Got a friend to bring some money out to me. Got my girlfriend out there for a little holiday, just so I could see her for a little bit. But I had to be really careful about that because I didn't want to be followed by the British police.
Yeah.
So that was quite a complex thing. She had to drive out and all sorts of stuff.
And so talk to me about spending time in France then. So how long were you in France then? And were you keeping your nose completely clean at this point?
Yeah, when I left England, I had to drop all my electronic communications, emptied all my bank accounts, dropped all those.
So there was no way of you continuing the operation?
No.
So you completely knocked it on the head?
No. So there was that one last job. I thought I'd do one last job. I was still we were still working. There were still things coming into England whilst I was in France. I was doing it. It just got so complicated trying to do it through French payphones and French mobile phones, and it was really difficult. I've lost my track now.
So you're in France, you've got a few bits coming through, but decided to do this one last job.
Decided to do one last job.
And so what did that mean? You travelling back out to South America?
Yeah, so decided to go out to Ecuador, decided to get my girlfriend to come out to Ecuador for a holiday. I had a mule coming out as well. So the plan was to go, I landed out in Ecuador first. I was waiting for the mule to come. My girlfriend arrived the day after me. And then I was going to give the bag to the mule. The mule was going to fuck off, and I was going to show my girlfriend around Ecuador for a few weeks. She was going to go back to England. I was going to go back to France, and then Thailand for 6 months. Wait for the money to come out whilst I was sat in Thailand, and just let things die right down and not do anything for 6 months. Have a complete break and hopefully things would blow over. So
I'm guessing that didn't go to plan then.
No, the Colombian informant obviously knew, because he was involved in the Ecuador job, the last one, knew that this was going to be the last one, and he'd obviously told the British police that this is your last chance to get this guy, because if you don't, he's in the wind, he's going to be gone. And I think they were already struggling to find where it was in France, because they hadn't been and knocks on the door, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they later told me that when I disappeared that they didn't know where I was. They've actually told me that since.
Jesus, but don't reveal any more then at this point here, because I think this is a good end point. I think to leave it at. Like getting into Ecuador with your girlfriend, ready for the last job, and let's see how things progress from there. So, Pieter, I'd like to thank you very much, obviously, like I said, for the opportunity today and coming down here, taking time out.
Great, thanks, Christian.
Like I say, it's what an unbelievable story. It's, I'm engrossed, and we're not even up to the point where you ended up in the most dramatic part. So next time we can sort of concentrate, hopefully, on all the Ecuadorian jail. Obviously, don't want to ruin the surprise too much on people. Yeah. And like I said again, thank you very much. Much appreciated. It's been a pleasure meeting you.
And you.
And I look forward to doing it again.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you, Pieter.
Cheers.